Gentlemen, you tuned into India Tonight with me, Sumita Karir, and my colleague Nivedna Prabhu. We're coming to you live from our Delhi studios, and tonight we put the focus on GCCs. Well, the $1 lakh annual fee on new H-1B visa petitions is being widely seen as a big blow by the US administration after the tariff hike. Yet experts believe that silver linings emerge for India's booming global capability centers, or GCCs. With US firms like Amazon and Microsoft already expanding these innovation hubs, India hosts over half of worldwide experts predicting a surge in local hiring, complex R&D roles, and up to 2.8 million new jobs by 2030. So as GCCs evolve from back offices to AI powerhouses, could this supercharge India's tech ecosystem, turning visa hurdles into a homegrown opportunity? All eyes now are on GCCs, and we discuss the implications today. And Nivedna, joining us now is a very special guest to decode this huge opportunity that lies ahead for India over the next couple of years.
Absolutely, Sumita. In fact, joining us on the show tonight is Dhanrajani, CEO, AI Curate, and 3AI as well. Sameer, thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us here this evening. Let's begin with what we're immediately seeing. And of course, it underscores in a sense of what we're looking at. But what I want to understand from you is how should India here position its GCCs as strategic assets that not only drive economic growth, but also enhance India's technological sovereignty and, of course, influence in global supply chains?
Well, I think it's a very opportune time for India to really look at ratcheting up the whole pace and momentum in GCCs. We had a head start with 1,800 GCCs comprising of several Fortune 1000 companies, and also with the global push of AI in terms of the next level of R&D and AI-powered enterprise. I think the next rallying cry for India as a part of this whole geopolitical situations and business gyration could be how we can look at catapulting GCCs to the next level in terms of being AI hubs, in terms of being a very top of the line center of excellence in terms of AI. And one of the very, I would say, great aspect for us, which has really worked in the past and also now helping us, is a very seasoned set of tech professionals at scale, which is coming alive. Second, this whole best practice creation, which has happened from the last 20 years, from the time GCCs have set up, is now coming alive in terms of new models or operating models of GCCs and future state architecture coming alive. So timing-wise, it's really, I would say, appropriate, and really, I would say, a big acceleration which can happen from here on.
Right, Sameer, but let me also ask you about the fact that in light of the global geopolitical developments that we are seeing, and particularly with respect to what the US administration has decided, does it really put pressure on IT companies, given that GCC employees are being preferred at the moment by global companies, including global banks in the United States?
Well, I think it's what we say a scenario which is topical. We've seen in the past how GCCs and IT services or the IT bellwether companies have worked together because it's all about the best-in-class capabilities coming alive for the large organization. And whether it was the previous, I would say, set of trends or even the current, I would say, existing scenario, the ecosystem creation by GCCs has been very imperative, wherein they have actually worked in unison with the IT bellwether companies and even with the AI services and the solution players as well.
Sameer, as you pointed out, you were talking about how we've looked at how there should be an opportunity in adversity as well. But what I want to understand from you, given what you said about AI as well, and from your vantage point in AI and innovation ecosystems, how significant is this policy acceleration that, in catalyzing, of course, India's shift from being a back office outsourcing hub to a global AI and R&D powerhouse? Because in your opinion, what would be the key AI-led innovation levers for GCCs that they must focus on to really get that transformation?
Nivedana, if we really look at AI-powered or AI-first enterprises, which are being pushed as a part of the boardroom agenda by the multinationals, And one of the eminent feature of AI-powered organization has always been how do you reimagine customer experience, transform your businesses, and also create innovative product and solutions. Now, which is where the whole aspect of global capability centers come alive. A, you're replicating almost a parent organization's strategy out here in India as a part of the business alignment. Second, it's a very tight coupling of stakeholders from the parent organizations to the GCC, which allows a very, very conducive environment. And third, the ability of India now to really look at creating the best in class, IP-able, deployable kind of AI solutions should be the focus out here. Because in the past, the GCCs have lived through this whole story of lift and shift. But now, with this imperatives of organizations really looking at AI as a disruption or as an innovative kind of, let's say, concept, GCCs will really have to accentuate their overall capabilities and offerings to move to the next level, which also means India at this stage, with almost about 2 million deployable population of GCCs, has advantage. And also, let's not forget, overall, we have almost about 6 million IT professionals. So there is a large propensity in terms of scale, what we can enjoy. And therein, it's also an opportunity for us to really look at how do we create new agentic AI to Gen AI solutions with GCCs in, I would say, contention as well.
Right. Absolutely, Samir. As you mentioned about the humongous opportunity that the GCC sector really presents for India and, of course, for global other countries as well. $100 billion in annual revenue is anticipated to come from GCCs by 2030. This is according to some industry data that we've gained. In fact, India has around 2,000 GCCs at the moment. Now, when you talk about centers policies, now Karnataka, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Telangana, they're looking at their own state policies as well to give a boost to the private GCC ecosystem. But what should the central government look at when it comes to rolling out this policy, considering the kind of global disruptions that we're seeing, and we're being told by our sources that the GCC policy rollout is soon?
Well, if we really look at, Sumita, this particular question, I think the intent is very clear from the organizations wanting to set up GCCs, and it's a very simple ask by them for the government, the central government specifically, is create a conducive environment for GCCs to thrive. I mean, many of the GCCs today follow a hub and spoke model, which means they actually create a kind of a, let's say, large center of excellence in one of the major metros of India, and then look at creating satellite or spoke kind of, let's say, offices in the tier two, tier three cities in India. Now, that's where the policy to create and what I call a integrated GCC policy to create tier two, tier three cities in terms of connectivity, in terms of bandwidth, in terms of talent availability, in terms of ecosystem creation is paramount. Now, this is where we are calling, or rather saying, look, it's not just about employment creation. The fact of economic output addition in the GDP could be a major driver for central government to look at an integrated GCC policy. Today, Karnataka, Maharashtra, and also UP have started kind of doing that, and there are more states, governments which are doing that. But what it also needs a very cohesive central approach where everything in terms of how the innovation, how the IP creation, how the R&D development, and even the scale can happen across India through the GCCs in unison.
In fact, you make a very imperative point in terms of how that synergy is required. But Samir, let me ask you this from a talent perspective, right? What we're looking at over here with the tightening of the H-1B visas, that could force Indian GCCs to build perhaps a deeper domestic talent pool. But are we really ready for that leap from volume hiring to sourcing for high impact innovation roles? How do you look at that?
Nivedana, again, it's a tough act. On one side, we're talking about skill and impact existing together as a part of the GCCs. But what is coming alive today, let's not forget, and just to reiterate, GCC is not a new story in India. What erstwhile used to be captive to shared service center to GIC, it's now metamorphed to GCCs, which again is an evolution of how the parent organizations back in US are looking at India as a preferred destination for GCCs. Now, coming back to the question what you asked, I think let's also realize the 6 million tech population over the years have matured. Not only they have done what we call the legacy IT infrastructure work, today they are also looking at creating new apps, new developments, new kind of, let's say, AI, Gen AI, agentic AI, cybersecurity product and solutions for the parent organization. So experience in terms of creating those top-notch tech kind of, let's say, product and solutions is now really coming handy for India. I mean, imagine a situation if this kind of a scale of 6 million tech population across, I would say, industry domains or across, I would say, different technical capability needs to be challenged by any other country or geography. Hands down, we would stand very tall when it comes to us being seen as a preferred tech destination. And maybe this is the right time for not only, I would say, the Indian companies which are really looking at taking the AI offerings to the next level, but also for the existing GCCs to up the ante in terms of also creating new levels of, I would say, elevated work streams in India.
Right. So you essentially are suggesting that GCCs also need to sort of up the ante as far as talent matching up with their global counterparts is concerned. But what's the kind of push that you anticipate from the Indian government, especially as far as the rollout of the GCC policy is concerned? What do you think the government should be focusing more on, and how big do you think the corpus for the GCC policy should be?
Well, I think the majority of the corpus, if you look, Sumita, is all about creating ecosystem and infrastructure. Today, when we are talking about connectivity amongst the metro and within the metros to the tier two, tier three cities, it's not up to what it really should be, kind of. And second, we are also talking about infrastructure where it's not just about creating those offices. It's a peripheral, I would say, environment of the best of the hotels, the best of, I would say, ecosystem for talent to kind of not only work but thrive as well. More importantly, out here, I think one of the missing aspect is every metro or tier two, tier three city now need large computing and data infrastructure centers as well. We've realized that, look, this is the need of the hour, where it's not just 5 years back, same conversation would have been more about bandwidth. Today, it's not. It's more about creating the best of the computing power and data center for the GCCs to really look at how they can actually leverage the infrastructure to create the best of the new age models, algorithms, where AI can come into much more, I would say, prominent. So that's something which the government really needs to look in, and there are some thoughts around how do they create a AI sovereign AI cloud, and also in terms of India centric kind of an LLM, but that needs to now come alive in terms of not only the money, but the intent coming out in terms of saying, look, this is how this entire thing pans out as far as the AI policy is also concerned.
Right, Samir. In fact, on that note, I want to thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us here, sharing your perspective as to how you're essentially looking at how this would perhaps unfold as well. But it's a matter of time that we will perhaps understand better this particular road going ahead. But having said that, thank you very much once again for joining us. But stay with us, because we're going to be right back after this short break here on India Tonight. Sumita and I put more into perspective, especially what Donald Trump did say at the UNGA. Stay with us, don't worry.